Go. Go, go. So this evening's practice is going to be emphasizing cooling the pitta dosha as I sit here and bang on my computer like, go, go, record, record. Cooling the pitta dosha. And this is um, came to my mind precisely because of what's been happening in Oklahoma and the power outages and the big storms and people without electric and ice and gas. And it's kind of apocalyptic, I guess, in Tulsa. Things are on the upswing. Power is being restored in many of the neighborhoods, but not quite out of the woods yet. So thought tonight we would do just a really chill cool down practice, and you'll need two bolsters, a rectangle and a round. If you have access to both of those, you'll need a blanket and you'll need a block. We're going to begin. Sitting just for a moment, and then we're going to come down onto our back, flat onto the mat. But for starters, I want you to get into a shape that's comfortable for you, whether that's on a chair or on the floor or up on a bolster. Oh. And let your eyes close. Bring your hands to your lap and let's go palms up so that there is a sense of physical gesture, a sense of being open and receptive. Follow your breath as it glides in through your nose and out through your nose. Making this transition from the busyness of your day, um, perhaps the chaos of the past week, transitioning to this time, this hour that you've set aside, this appointment you're keeping with your body, your mind, your spirit on that. We're going to begin with Shitali Pranayama. And Shitali is that cooling breath, or the hissing sound breath. And what happens is, those of you who can curl your tongue, you'll stick your tongue out, curl your tongue, making a tube. Inhale through your tongue, through the tube of your tongue. And then plant your tongue to the roof of your mouth and exhale from your nose. Now, if curling the tongue is not available to you, and not everybody can curl the tongue, then you make this Cheshire Cat grin and you inhale through your teeth. And then plant your tongue to the roof of your mouth and exhale from your nose. We're going to do this 7 times. So let's exhale whatever we have on board. We'll begin together and then everyone will end at a different time. So curling your tongue, breathing in. Exhale from your nose. Hang for a slight pause at the top of the inhalation. Feel the cool pressure of your tongue at the roof of your mouth. Pulling down the mouth, the skull, cranium. And once you've completed 7 rounds of the Shitali or the Shitkari, either breathing through your tongue or through your teeth, then moving as little as possible, as efficient as possible, come onto your back. With your knees bent and your feet wide, take your arms out like a T or like a cactus. And we'll start out with windshield wipers, dropping the knees to the left as you breathe in. Coming through center as you breathe out. Knees to the right as you breathe in. Back to center as you exhale. And just keep going a few more times, letting your breath guide the rate, the speed. Slower is always better. And it's your breath that initiates the movement, both on the inhale and the exhale. When your knees are going to the left this next time, I'll have you keep them there. Stretch your right arm off towards the top right corner of your sticky mat. Feeling as though you're taking a big yawn through the right side of your body. From your fingertips, palms, and wrist, all the way down to your outer right knee. Gently pressing the instep of your right foot into the floor, elevating your right hip, your right buttock just a wee bit more. And let's glide through center. Knees over to the right. And stretch your left arm. Bring your knees back to center, settling your feet onto the mat. Walk your feet towards one another. And then we're going to stretch our legs down onto the floor, down onto the mat. We're going to come into what I call banana pose. Sweep your left leg over to the left. Keep your legs straight. Stick your leg out to the left. And then you're going to bring your right leg over to the left and maybe stack your right ankle over your left ankle. But now here's the catch. You've got to keep your right butt cheek down. And then if you'd like, you can arc your upper body over to the left as well. Your arms can remain like a cactus, or I like to bend my elbows and bring my hands together above my head, gently kind of hooking my fingers together just over my head. Okay, if your ankles are crossed, you'll uncross and set your right foot onto the mat. And you can square your upper body back onto the mat. And then gently bend your left knee and bring your left foot onto the mat. Stretch your legs down, sweep your right leg out to the right, and then bring your left leg over to meet it. Oh. Roll your left buttock back to the floor. And then arc your upper body over to the right if you choose. Bring your left foot onto the mat, your knee bent. And then you can bring your right leg in. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to keep with this theme of stretching the outer hips and lower waist. So you reach for your bolster. If you have a rectangle bolster, go with that one. Either one will work, but I find the rectangle, if you have access to it, give you just a little bit more support. Lift your hips and slide the rectangle bolster underneath your sacrum and lower back. Keeping your knees bent and your feet to the floor, I'd like you to shift your hips just over to the right edge of your bolster. At this point, you'll cross your right leg over your left and then rock your knees over to the left. Take your right arm out to the right, and you are welcome to grab your block or that additional bolster and set that block underneath your right knee or your left knee for a little bit of added support if you'd like. Maybe under your foot. Excuse me. right, now you're going to bring your knees back up, go super slow as you make your way out of that twist. There's a lot going on there. Uncrossing your legs and then squaring your hips on the bolster. Now you'll shift your hips over to the left edge of your bolster, crossing your left leg over the right, dropping your knees over to the right, finding all the support you'd like with the additional props. And taking your left arm out to the left. Bring your knees back up. Uncross your legs. Square your hips on the bolster. Square with your shoulders. And then we're going to stay for about a minute. You're welcome to keep your knees bent or experiment with stretching your legs down the length of your mat, coming into a bridge pose. If your legs are straight, bend your knees. Placing your feet on the mat, you can lift your hips and slide the bolster out to one side. And bring your spine, lower back, sacrum, tush down to the mat. Drop your knees inward, letting them rest against one another. And let's pause. Okay, roll over to your left side and lift yourself up so we can prep for the next couple shapes. You'll use your blanket, if you have one, as your pillow. Your round bolster is particularly well suited for lying side stretch as it supports the waist. You'll snug the bolster up next to your left hip, left thigh. Knees are bent, knees are stacked, one on top of the other. Drape your left waist over the bolster. Bring your head to your blanket. You can fold your blanket up as high as you'd like, so you've got plenty of space for your left shoulder to be at ease between blanket and bolster. Right arm can stay at your side or maybe go over your head. Now you can keep your right arm where it is, or you can play around with taking your right arm back behind you, turning this side stretch into a twist. You can set your right hand, if it's behind you, you can set it onto a block or maybe onto a bolster. Your right arm is behind you or over your head. I'll have you float it back up to vertical. And then slowly let it float down to the floor in front of you. Come up onto your left elbow, rest your head in your left hand. Okay. Slowly come up and do the other side. So you can do a 180-degree spin facing the other way. I'm going to flip my setup to the other end of my mat. And here we go again. Nestle the bolster up against your right hip. Drape yourself over said bolster. Adjust your pillow appropriately. You might need to be different on this side. Keep your knees bent and stacked, one on top of the other, and then maybe left arm can go over your head, or just keep your left arm at your side. Unhinge your jaw, your TMJ, let your mandible wiggle from side to side a couple times. Now we'll take the left arm back. If your body approves of going into that shape. Bring your left arm out in front, down to the floor. Come up onto your right elbow, resting your head in your hand. Lift yourself up the rest of the way. And come into child's pose, Balasana. Now, this child's pose, you are welcome to put a bolster underneath your torso if you'd like. Taking your knees somewhat wide. So you can take your forehead down to the floor if you'd like, or make a little ramp. Put a block rather, underneath the head of your bolster. And then bring your sternum, your chest, ribs down to the bolster. And if you've got your forehead to the floor, that's fine. If you're using a bolster, turn your head to the right. And turn your head to the left. Bring your forehead to your bolster. Slide your hands to your knees and slowly lift yourself up. Okay, now grab your blanket. Fold your blanket in half. You make yourself a little platform. We're going to take a seat on the edge of the blanket and have you have your bolsters nearby. So to begin, let's take the left leg out to the left, to the hip there, and pull your right heel in, right knee down. Left leg is out on the diagonal. And then you can stack. We're going to come into a side bend. And what I think is kind of nice to do is to stack a bolster over your left leg. Bring your right hand to your upper right thigh, kind of just right about at the head of the femur bone, right at the hip crease. I want you to press down into your right thigh, stay seated and rooted through your right sitting bone. And then you're going to arc your trunk over to the left. And then I'm going to suggest just bending your left elbow, resting your head in your left hand. Now, you might want to add a block to your bolster stack, like so. Yeah. This doesn't need to be like a big come to Jesus side bend, you know, it can just be like, nice and gentle. Your right hand, keep reminding your left leg to remain heavy. your right shoulder down away from your ear. Invite your head to be heavy in your left hand. Okay. Slowly, using your left fingertips at your temple, lift your head up. Pull your right knee up. Set your right foot to the mat. Pull your left knee up. Left foot to the mat. Now your right leg goes out to the right. Left knee comes down to the sticky. Stack your bolster over your right leg, maybe your second bolster, or use a block as well. Left hand goes right up high on the left thigh, keeping you anchored and rooted down, and then arc your right ribs over to the right. Rest your head in your right hand. With your right fingertips at your right temple, lift yourself up slowly. Keep your right leg where it is, but pull your left knee up and take your left leg out on the diagonal as well for Upavishta Konasana, wide-legged forward bend. So we'll continue to use our props. And for this one, I almost stacked both bolsters, one on top of the other. And I'm pushing my top bolster forward just a little bit. So I've got a little bit of a stair, like a staircase thing. They're, yeah, not quite flush with one another. And then fingertips to the floor on either side of your hips. Let's take a breath and get long through your spine, open up through your front ribs. And then as you exhale, come forward. And then maneuver your bolsters however you like. So I'm actually going to push my top bolster farther away so that it just supports my forehead. And then arms can just relax, shoulders can round. Soft stretch through your hips, inner thighs, and lower back. Perhaps the most important aspect of this pose is to have your forehead resting on something. So stack your bolsters and your block as high as you'd like. So you've got that support. Bring your hands onto the floor if they're not, and slowly, oh so slowly, bring yourself up. Put your left knee up, right knee up. Get your block to the head of your mat. Place your rectangle bolster at the head of your mat, making a ramp with the head of the bolster sitting on the block. Round bolster is going to come to towards the bottom of your mat. This will be for your knees. Slide down off of your perch, your blanket perch, and place your blanket at the head of your rectangle bolster. You come into the lazy boy asana. So take a turn, sit with your back to the bolster ramp. And before we go back, let's hug the knees in pretty close, drawing the energy to the midline after that wide-legged seat. Wrapping your arms around the front of your knees, your shins. All right. And now we'll step our feet over the round bolster. Hands come to the floor on either side of your hips. Sweep your tailbone forward, just a smudge, a smidge. And then lower yourself down over your ramp. Stretch your legs out one at a time, elongating the lower limbs. Fun to say, elongate your lower limbs. And then with your arms, turn your palms up. Soft bend to your elbows. And I invite you to just give yourself permission to drop into ease and comfort. No special instructions or manipulating of the breath. Your breath will find its own groove, its own rhythm. Start to deepen your breath. Of course, you're welcome to stay in Shavasana for as long as you'd like, as long as your time and space permits. Otherwise, begin moving your fingers, moving your toes. Stretch through your arms and your legs. One leg at a time, pull your knees up. Set your feet onto the bolster. Roll the bolster out from underneath you. Set your feet on the mat. Bring yourself over to your favorite side. And lift yourself up slowly. Palms together. Take the base of your thumbs to your forehead. Cool mind. Set your fingertips to your lips. Cool communication. And then your hands to your heart for a cool hug. Oh. Oh. Thank you.